Hello and a very croaky welcome to episode 35 of The Lazy Couch. This is a weekly podcast covering the latest in technology, the internet, movies and much more. My name is Geoff Kim and I'm with my co-host Kelvin Lee, and we're recording on Thursday 15th of October, Sydney, Australia. How's it going, Kelvin?
Good. So we're recording on Thursdays.
Yes.
And we have joined a football team at work. So we're going to have to find a way of getting those two working together. But in the meantime, we will try and record as much as we can on Wednesdays. But when we have to, we'll push it out to Thursday.
I think that's okay because we tend to push the episodes out on Friday mornings anyway. So it should work out. I think we did try to record before the game yesterday, but unfortunately I've fallen a little bit ill the last couple of days and I had to take a little granddad nap before the game. We had a pretty interesting weekend.
Yeah, we did. So on Sunday, we went to the Sydney Opera House to catch the Graphic 2015 event. It's basically an event around comic books, movies. We had a really good time.
Yeah, sort of graphic storytelling is, I think, what their tagline is. We saw the season 6 premiere of The Walking Dead, which is, I think, the first one around the world because I know New York Comic Con got to see it as well. Before, I mean, it only came out the day later in Australia. Yeah. The other thing I started watching was Mr. Robot during the week, and guess what happened? I actually finished it.
So that's impressive. I'm only up to episode 3.
Yeah.
And you're watching this on Presto just like I am.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's I guess I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it's all I can say is a bit of who's the guy who directed Fight Club? David Fincher. Just imagine if David Fincher directed Dexter. That's about all I can say about it. But it's very intriguing. It's about the whole hacker culture, all the cool things around that. And a little shout out to the people at State Theatre right now, probably, because they're probably entering the theatre to watch Mark Maron of WTF with Mark Maron. Yeah,
wish we could be there, but unfortunately we had to move a few things around due to a busy schedule.
Yes, and a couple of follow-up items. Let's go with the Microsoft stuff because we talked about that a lot last week. In fact, I think that segment was 27 minutes long.
Yeah.
So we were talking about, we were asking when the Microsoft store was going to open in Sydney. And I have that date. That is in November, 12th of November, which is in about 4 weeks' time. And it's going to be at Pitt Street Mall. Yeah.
So not in Chatswood like I earlier thought it would have been. But no, it's going to be expensive. You know, this is Pitt Street for us is sort of the main shopping strip for those who aren't local.
Yep.
So it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, and they're encouraging people to start lining up from 10 p.m. on the Wednesday previous. So
yeah,
whether that happens or not.
Good luck with that. I mean, if they launch the Surface Book along with the opening of the store, I can see there being an appeal. But I still don't know what the draw card is right now.
I would think that they're going to have those devices there
yeah.
with the band and maybe like a HoloLens in a glass case somewhere.
Yeah, no, hopefully. And just following up on the follow-up to Microsoft, there was a good piece in Mashable where they had a look at how the Surface Book was built from scratch. So there's a whole story in there interviewing all the key folks at Microsoft. So have a look if you're interested.
Yep, and also another follow-up because this is what we do. We research and we tell you the right things here on the podcast. We have the Australian pricing, at least for the Surface Pro 4. And in Australia, it's going to start from $1,348. So that's the one with Core M processor.
So I definitely recommend that you go up a notch to the i5 version for $150 more than the Core M. The Core M was designed for mobile devices, and it's meant to be better for battery life and whatnot, but I think it's too underpowered for most. So definitely go up to the i5 at least for 1498. That's with 128 gigabytes of memory. If you want more, you could bump it up by $500 just to get double that, which is insane.
Yep. Next step up is with the i7 processor, and that is a Skylake. Is that right? Yes. That's another 500 on top of that, which is 2498. So you're starting to get. This is, remember, a tablet/laptop. So yeah, and the highest end is 512 gig memory i7, and that's 3,398.
Which scares me a lot because how much would the Surface Book cost at this rate? I'm predicting that the Surface Book will start at 2,500.
Yeah,
at least. For a basic version, and then it'll probably go all the way up to $4,500.
Probably more.
Probably more.
Yep.
So, these things haven't been launched yet. So we'll have to wait till October. Maybe at the end of the year, closer to Christmas, you might get deals. But for those early adopters out there, it's time to spend your money.
Villager news.
All right, first up this week, we have some big news with Dell buying EMC, a huge sort of security computing conglomerate, for a record 67 billion US, which is, we worked out earlier, 92 billion Australian. Now, so this was rumored well before this announcement, but interestingly, Dell is only valued at 25 billion itself, so we're not quite sure how this is all working, but some funny business going on here.
And I promise you this will be my last reference to Microsoft for this episode.
Yeah.
But I think this is a step towards Dell focusing on the enterprise market. If Microsoft starts to build its own hardware, then Dell knows that its consumer line is going to come up with some serious challenges.
Right.
So when you think about some of the good stuff that Dell has done from their XPS range, which is their high-end laptop, how are they going to compete with, what Microsoft is going to deliver? So they're going to have to look at other avenues. And I think this is the biggest tech acquisition of all time, and for good reason. There's a huge shift in the market now.
Yeah. Some of the talk coming out, I've got this Business Insider Australia article here, saying that one of the early employers of VMware, which is a part of EMC, they're saying that this is not going to mean too much in terms of, the thought here is that it's going to be competing with the Amazon or the Amazon Web Service, AWS, of the world. And also, I didn't realize this, but EMC also controls RSA. Like the security.
The dongles that we get.
That's right, yeah.
From banks or for work when it comes to securely logging into things.
So Dell's going to be going into like your infrastructure of your IT systems, and I guess your help desk and things like that will be run by Dell. They won't be just providing the PCs and the laptops.
Yeah. So on to other news. We finally have some very good mobile data on what Australians are doing with their devices. So the Interactive Advertising Bureau, short for IAB, they basically measure web-based and app-based browsing. Some really interesting stats here. So Viber is more popular than WhatsApp and Snapchat, which blows my mind a little bit, considering that I don't use Viber. And do you use Viber?
I'm on it, but no. I think there's maybe one or two people that I know of, and they asked me to join, so that's why I joined. But maybe 5 years ago, Viber was popular.
Yeah, so Viber is still quite popular in Asian countries. So I'm guessing this might be skewed data from maybe travelers or migrants.
Yeah.
But who knows? Other sort of stats that they've produced is they're looking at some of the apps and news sites that smartphone users go to. So for Australia, the top three are, including apps, news.com.au, smh.com.au, and ABC.
That makes sense. I would have thought SMH was a bit higher, but I suppose news is a bit more Australian-wide, whereas SMH is Sydney-centric.
Sydney-centric. But no real surprises there, but it's finally good to get some data. Apparently it took them a long time to come up with this, and there was a huge delay of 6 months.
Right.
So for those of you who are interested to see what else everyone is up to, check out our show notes.
Love the smell of broadband in the morning.
So that was William Shatner promoting the new Foxtel triple bundle. So Foxtel is sort of like our Comcast. It's basically a cable provider who also provide broadband and a service similar to Netflix. So this move will see Foxtel customers use a single subscription for TV, broadband, and home phone in partnership with Telstra, which owns 50% of the cable company, and News Corp owns the other 50%. So this is a huge move, I think, for Foxtel because they're really struggling now. So basic packages will start at $90 a month for access to 43 channels, a home phone, and 50 gigabytes of broadband data. And as you go up to 100, 200, and 500, they go up at about $10 increments. So $95, $105, and $125. Customers can also scale up the number of channels that they subscribe to, which is typical of Foxtel.
Yeah.
So a huge move to counter the whole Netflix phenomenon that's happening here, because everyone we know is Netflix. I'm not sure if this is enough.
Yeah, are they actually going backwards? Because like the whole criticism of these big guys, I mean, it's almost a monopoly in Australia, and they're using the bundle method to get people to pay for things that they don't need, right? So
Exactly. So,
are they
so you're
actually going
right.
backwards? Yeah.
Almost. I think they wanna convince their current customers to let them know that, hey, you can stick with us. We're gonna have better plans coming. And look, now you can bundle your broadband, your home phone, and your mobile device all in one.
Yeah, and they can do that because Telstra is a big stakeholder in
Yeah.
Foxtel too.
So, unless I think one of the deal breaker for this would be if HBO Go starts, a Netflix type service here and all the other guys do the same thing. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yes. Can I just say though, Mumbrella on mobile is crap. Look at this. Yeah. All right. Anyway, my next news item is Medium. So this is a very, very quick one, but they've had a bit of an upgrade. Ev Williams, who is the current CEO of Medium, but he's known for basically being the founder of Twitter with Jack Dorsey, the new permanent CEO. So one of the things is there's a bunch of things they're going to upgrade. They're going to make it a bit more, I suppose, public. But the big thing I wanted to sort of like call out was the logo, and it's not coming up on the Flipboard. But can you see the logo?
I can see it.
Yeah, very I don't know, folded paper like ish.
3D. It's very 3D.
It's 3D, but not because you don't get the perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of how when you see some of the buskers where they take the chalk and they draw these 3D images on the floor to make it look like 3D. Yeah, that's it. It's very gray. It's very subtle. Very much like the brand, I would think. It's very simple. From what I can see, they're also allowing people now to mention other people on Medium, so it's becoming its own social ecosystem.
Kinda. I mean, like they did that with being able to comment like in lines. So rather than having the comments right at the bottom of the post, like other sort of blogs and news sites, Medium is just about the only sort of channel or the publishing platform where you can comment. Like you can highlight certain sentences and comment on those mentions.
So that's still really impressive.
They've been doing that, so they've been sort of pushing the boundary there. Medium is also like very readable as well. Like at the top of the article, it will say how long it would take to read the article, things like that. It's a couple other things. They're introducing a publishing API. Yeah, so what does that mean? Because we've sort of talked about when we do blog posts. And it's a question of when, not if. How do we we want to post to Medium as well as our own blogs, as well as our, podcast blog as well. Yeah. So how do we do that? Maybe through an API.
So a lot of companies that we know of do this publish once, syndicate everywhere type model. But we won't bore you today about that, especially if I get into SEO, I won't stop. But no, it's. I think Medium needs to step it up because you have LinkedIn now where you can publish entire articles, and everyone I know on LinkedIn is doing it at the moment, and you get instant notification from that. So Medium is going to have to up its game against LinkedIn.
That's right.
In other news, in other very sad companies, enterprise companies that used to own the market, BlackBerry. Their CEO, John Chen, has come out and said, look, if we want to stay profitable, we need to sell 5 million phones by the end of the financial year. That's a lot of BlackBerries. So currently their upcoming phone, the Priv, which is an Android-powered slide device that will launch before the end of the year, it's going to have to pick up the pace and do a lot because to date, BlackBerry has just sold 800,000 phones. The interesting thing about the Priv is it runs Android, so not the BB10, but it does have the company's security technology baked in. So Chen won't commit to saying that we'll never see another BB10 device, but he did say that, the market for BB10 is purely at high security business, governments, and hospitals. So people like Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and people like that are going to probably have to stop using their iPhones if they want better security. I think that's the kind of message that's going out.
That's right. And I know with the whole Hillary Clinton using her own mail server debate that's been going on, also I read about Malcolm Turnbull pretty much admitting that he's got his own mail server set up.
So the government doesn't trust the government, which is I find really interesting.
That's right.
On to other news. Our favorite drive sharing service, Uber, has now launched a FedEx killer, according to Business Insider. Slightly dramatic. It's called Uber Rush. So this isn't a consumer-facing service. The real business for Uber Rush will be, think of it as a delivery fleet for a lot of small businesses. So you've got a full kitchen going, you've got a huge number of calls coming in. You can't service that number of deliveries. You quickly pull out your app, You tell Uber Rush what you need, and you get either a courier or a motorcycle or something come up and support your business.
So this is linking the couriers to the businesses?
Yes.
All right. So just like in the Uber app.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you'll see a courier on the map.
Yeah. Pretty
amazing.
Much. Yeah. How cool is that? So each Uber Rush delivery will cost the merchant around $5 to $7, and then Uber will pay the driver 75 to 80% of that fee, and then keep the rest.
Okay.
So they no longer become that intermediary. Like you don't use Uber to actually do it. If you're a consumer, you won't see that. You don't interact with Uber, but the merchant does.
I mean, we've long suspected that Uber will eventually become a logistics company.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, in Sydney, they tried the whole Uber boat, which I thought was hilarious. They tried delivering Messina ice cream all over town. So sooner or later, they're going to take over logistics. Yeah,
they also mention Postmates, which is not something that's popular here. But it's huge in New York and things like that, where they deliver, food to you. So like, I don't know, it's like a cross between Menulog, or maybe like in the future, like these boutique pizza places can deliver at a low cost. Because I think that's not something they want to get into, because the delivery costs are huge. Exactly. And that's why the Pizza Huts and Domino's can afford it. But
I mean, for $5 to $7, let's just say it goes all the way up to 10 in Australian dollars. I would pay for my favorite pizza place to send me my favorite pizza, regardless of where they are. Yeah. So looking forward to this, and hopefully it comes here soon.
You blocked me on Facebook, and now you're going to die.
So you might have noticed the last couple of weeks we've been kind of experimenting with some sound clips of people that we not necessarily admire, but like people that are influential in the tech industry and just, pretty much inventing the future. So we got Mark Zuckerberg this week, who appeared. I mean, he had a very busy week last week that we talked about, but he appeared at a something called Vanity Fair's New Establishment Fair. Oh, okay, fair. Yeah. In San Francisco, and it was hosted by Stephen Levy, who's a well-established author and writer. He's actually the chief editor of Medium.
And nerd.
Yes. I've read a lot of his stuff, but I've never actually seen him in action. He was also there with Michael Abrash, who I really enjoy listening to, as you know, but he's the chief scientist at Oculus. So, they spent about 45 minutes talking about where Facebook is headed, how Oculus fits into the whole vision of Facebook. So let's just go into the first thing.
Is this the way people are going to use Facebook in the future? When I use Facebook, am I going to go in some sort of virtual world, some sort of metaverse?
I think we'll ease into that. So I mean, one of the things that we just launched was 360 videos in Newsfeed. And so the idea is that instead of just a 2D video where you're looking at the screen, you can now kind of pan around. And you can do that, I don't have my phone on me, but basically, I mean, you can like move it around in the room and see different parts of the scene. It's pretty neat. I mean, that sets us up very well to, in the future, be able to use a headset and be able to look around that way too and have it be more immersive. So, what Facebook is a way to give people a voice to share anything that they want in any form of medium with any audience that they want.
Yeah, so Mark mentioned the Star Wars thing that we mentioned, and I think you got a big reaction out of last week.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
That's the question that was being asked when we heard about the Oculus purchase by Facebook. I guess he's sort of describing maybe the bridge to get to virtual reality for Facebook, but
I think first they have to take out YouTube. And it's happening. I think you and I talk about this all the time, but your entire newsfeed now on Facebook is videos after videos after videos, and most of them are not coming from YouTube.
And because it's all autoplay. Like when one video finishes, it goes to the next one automatically.
So I didn't realize this till you showed me this. With the latest Facebook app, when you watch a video, all you need to do to watch the next video is swipe up. And you just keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
So as I was playing with YouTube, and we've been submitting a lot of content there, I did think about putting content on Facebook, but unfortunately there's a 45-minute limit. So I might cut some things out to put some episodes on Facebook to see how that works.
Is there any limit on Like how much you can upload? I guess YouTube doesn't. So
No, 45 minutes is the limit.
as in like number of videos
no.
and like overall, like how much content can
Go
you put
crazy.
up there?
Go crazy.
Yeah.
So I think that's the risk for Google right
Yeah.
now is that, hey, I don't care I don't care what the player is.
Yeah.
As long as I can just click on it from Facebook and just watch it.
That's right.
And YouTube does already have a 360 feature.
Yeah.
So does Google Photos with the new Nexus devices where you can do 360 photos.
But it's not part of like a feed, right? So this
No.
is where it's going to be very
Yeah.
advantageous for Facebook.
We won't go into it too much, which is why Google really needed Google Plus to work and it just didn't.
Yes. Well, Google might buy Twitter. So let's see what happens there.
We'll see what happens to that.
Next, they talked about internet.org and a little bit around the criticisms around, is Facebook creating its own AOL and its walled garden of the internet, a separate internet. I think Zuckerberg kind of brushed that off. I have a sort of long clip, so I won't play that one this week.
Yeah,
But
I mean, you guys know how I feel about. I'm slightly skeptical about what this will be, but a part of me wants this to really work for the people who really need the internet. So only time will tell. There's no real, we can't speculate any further than that.
And I've got one here titled Zuckerberg Gets Delusional, so let's just play that.
Yeah, this is a good one.
If you ask people in the developing world, Facebook is the number one reason why a lot of people get access to the internet. I mean, because it makes sense. Without data access, you can already call the people that you want, right, with a voice plan or text them. Staying in touch with people is the most fundamental thing that people do, right? So, it's not a surprise that after being able to call people and text people, the next thing that people want to do is be able to keep in touch with everyone they care about at once.
Yeah, so did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard it, but I don't believe it.
Do you think he believes it?
I think he does.
Yeah.
I think, look at our usage. I think undoubtedly Facebook is now probably my number one app on iPhone. But I'm trying to put myself in a third world country. And for me to get data, it used to be email, right? So I kind of agree, but then I'm also seeing more and more people on Instagram rather than Facebook. So I'm getting I'm getting almost equal amount of interaction on Instagram and Facebook. So either way, he owns both of them.
Yeah.
So I think there's a real opportunity here.
But I guess what he's saying here is that he's wanting to give free internet to the world, to the developing countries, so that they can use Facebook because that's the number one thing they want.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many ways to sort of cut this out, but it is slightly he's slightly obsessed with, trying to get Facebook to the next billion people. So I can see why he's so obsessed with this idea that I gotta get more people on it. People want this. So I don't know. I don't know if I do believe it.
He did go on to talk about net neutrality in general because basically this won't be net neutral. But he's saying that giving people basic rights like Facebook, but also, things like Wikipedia, there could be some other services there, like medical information, that sort of thing. So he's saying that that's a very a good thing to do to provide the world, and of course Facebook is one of those things. So there's really good intentions there, but I don't think this is a way to do it, right? And I think this is going to blow up in his face eventually.
Yeah, I would have preferred if Facebook gave money to a non-for-profit.
Yeah.
Totally empower them to provide the service and let the people decide what they want to do. I mean, people will be grateful that Facebook has provided the money to enable the technology and therefore be more drawn towards it rather than them driving everything.
Yep. Yeah, and he also talked about AI, and let's have a listen to that.
One of the big things that we're working on for the future is artificial intelligence, and our goal is to build computer systems which are better than people at all the perceptual things that people do, right? So vision, hearing, language understanding, kind of understanding concepts, memory, and I think we can get there within 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, so the crazy thing for me there is the time frame. So I think he knows something that we probably don't. Like 5 to 10 years, I think that's very optimistic to most people. But let's just say it's 7.5 years. That's only 2022.
Yeah.
The Qatar World Cup. We'll have
robots playing.
AI is actually looking out into the world and giving us information in real time and helping us.
I mean, the fact that he can formulate that projection
Yeah.
means that he's given some thought.
Yeah.
Or he's had engineers
Or it's part of a
teams,
roadmap.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
people already planning out what they can do. And considering what our phones can do, just multiply that by what it would need to process something like this. And it's totally, feasible that we can see this in 5 or 10 years. I mean, Google is spending so much money buying all these different companies on AIs and robotics and whatnot. So virtual reality, AR, robotics is definitely the future.
Yep. And this all leads up to one thing, Kelvin.
I actually think we were going to get to a point where the ads will be a meaningful addition to the experience and will add different content where people will actually start to view that as a positive. And we actually do in a number of countries. The US is not one of those today, but there are plenty of countries where the ad content is basically at the level in quality that people prefer to the organic content that's there. And I think that we're basically converging on that everywhere.
Yeah, so he reckons, he's stating that in certain countries, definitely not in Australia or the US, but certain countries, they're saying that people prefer ads better than the native content from their friends. And this is where they want to get to, and this is how they're going to make billions and billions of cash.
I can actually see that happening for people who don't put in the time to clean up their newsfeed or put people in the right groups. I strongly recommend that you do this. You go into Facebook, put people in the right groups, close friends, acquaintances, et cetera, and then, if you don't like something from someone, you can choose to unfollow them from the newsfeed, but still be friends with them if you don't want to have that awkward conversation with them. So take the effort to actually do this rather than let Facebook, where for you to come to a point where the ads are better than what you're seeing from your so-called friends and family.
Yeah.
I can see parts of Asia because of the amount of, fail videos that they spam or the amount of silly things that they see on the internet, like fake post clips and things like that. For us, I think for Western societies, I don't see how the ads will ever get better than the content we get from our friends.
Or it could be the opposite, or like if you do nothing, then like Facebook just won't know what you like or whatever, then you just get crap ads.
I have to admit though, the ads that I'm getting on Facebook and on Instagram are getting a lot better. Like I've actually liked some of the ads on Instagram.
So a lot of the graphic stuff came through in my feed as well. So I mean, I think that's the direction they're heading towards. That's the goal. So whether that happens or not, it's another question. I don't know. Like I kind of like the idea of better ads for Facebook.
Yeah, definitely. Because and unfortunately for businesses who want to start promoting themselves organically on Facebook, it's only going to get tougher and tougher and tougher.
All right. So that's just end the Facebook discussion there.
Yeah.
I've got another one that I've been holding back for the last couple of weeks just because we've had a couple of massive announcements, but this is very timely, Kelvin.
No, it is.
So Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is he calls himself your personal astrophysicist. He has one of the most popular podcasts in the world called Star Talk Radio. And recently he was out here for the Science Festival and charged $120 for a ticket to see him at the one of the big auditoriums. Horton Pavilion. Sorry, that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah. You and I both balked at the cost of that ticket just to hear him talk. I mean, you can find him all over YouTube right now.
No, he's a very popular guy. He's got a very unique sense about him. But in the last couple of weeks, he interviewed our favorite spy /
anti-spy,
anti-spy, nerd, geek, hacker, Ed Snowden.
Yeah.
So Ed Snowden is apparently still in Moscow somewhere, and this is a little clip to show you what he was doing.
So you've been in Russia for a while, and are you riding shirtless with Putin in the woods?
I actually just finished that up about 15 minutes ago. And then we jumped out of airplanes.
Yeah, that's just to set it up because it was a bit of a casual sort of conversation. First of all, how the hell do interviewers find him? If the NSA or the American government can't, pinpoint where he's target
on Twitter. I know.
He's joined Twitter since the interview as well.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's a part of Ed Snowden or whoever his manhandlers are actually going out and reaching out to people like Neil deGrasse Tyson. The one thing I do want to say though, if anyone's also watched the what's his name, John Oliver's version of
Yeah.
it, this seems a lot more natural. I think he seems a lot more open than what he was on the John Oliver one.
Yeah, so unlike John Oliver, who actually went to Moscow to interview him, Ed Snowden kind of came to Neil deGrasse Tyson in his studio in New York via a robot. So you know this thing that
the iPad robots?
Yeah, so like basically it's an iPad with wheels.
Yeah, with wheels.
And as Ed sort of uses his head movements, he looks left or right, the iPad kind of turns left to the right as well. So that's what was happening. Obviously, it was a podcast and there was no video of it, but that's how they described it. They talked about a lot of things, from alien signals from outer space, which is another topic we might discuss later. Several sort of nerdy discussions on the encryption and multi-factor authentication and personal privacy. But the thing I wanted to talk about today was metadata.
Yeah.
So the whole thing about Snowden's reveal was, there's a systematic program to collect everyone's metadata without any thought of privacy or I don't know, like how that sort of affects the world, a free world.
Yeah.
So let's just listen to Ed talk about metadata in general.
Now, the only thing I know of metadata is the extra information on my cell phone camera shot, where it was taken, what time of day, GPS might give its location, but presumably you have deeper relevance to that term. What is it?
Right. One of the things that politicians use to defend these programs initially, at least some of them, because I'll point out that both your metadata and your content is being collected when it crosses the internet, for example, through what's called the upstream program. But they've said, don't worry about it in the context of telephones because nobody's listening to what you're saying on the phone. They're simply recording who you're calling, when you're calling them, where you were when you called them, and information such as that kind of thing. What they're talking about is data about data, metadata, sort of the context of a communication, the fact that it occurred, rather than the content of it itself.
Yeah, so since this reveal happened, most of the public don't really give a crap about this because, what have I got to hide?
Yeah.
So what if I visited this website? So what? I talked to this person, But it is very important in this sense because you'll sort of hear later that it's actually more valuable than the actual data or data, as I pronounce it. So it also almost gives you a pattern of that person's psyche and personality almost, which I think is a lot more dangerous. Right?
Exactly. So they can almost build a profile of who you are and what you're most likely to do. Yeah. And who knows what they'll use with that kind of information.
All right. So why is this important this week? What happened this week? We talked about it earlier. On Tuesday, 13th of October, the Australia's mandatory data retention policy has kicked off, basically. So ISPs, your Telstras and TPGs and what's your one? Internodes of the world are required to store all your internet activity and give that to whatever government organisation without a search warrant or anything like that.
So basically, don't do anything your mom wouldn't do at this stage, because who knows how it'll be used against you in the near future.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, it's. I don't think you should change who you are.
Yeah.
So look, if you're a criminal, then maybe go but, or a terrorist. But if you just go through life, just go to work and watch your, 30 minutes of X Factor every night. You shouldn't have to go through this. Now, because this has happened, some of our colleagues, not colleagues, but other podcasters have given a very good insight into what we can do to stop this from happening, or at least have you not exposed as much.
Yeah.
So the Reckoner has a good article or an introduction on VPNs. So I encourage you follow that link and check that out. You were saying that you're on a VPN at the moment?
Yeah, so I have tried different VPNs in the past to try and view content in different countries. But I think all we want to really say is don't freak out. And like Geoff said, if you just do your day-to-day stuff, you're not going to come up as a risk. at all. I mean, this is just a monitoring service. And this is us guessing, by the way. I'm guessing this is more of a monitoring service. If you're doing anything that, fits a particular pattern that they know of, then they're going to start looking your way. But stick to your data safe stuff. Don't freak out. Still continue to put your, images on Facebook, continue to back up your phone on Google Photos, continue to put your videos in YouTube. I don't think, these government agencies are here to stop your day-to-day life. They're just here to try and get a bit more data to hopefully give us, better security.
Well, the intention is to, find those crooks.
Yeah.
But the argument here is that, there's a lot of privacy that the public is giving up for very little gain. So, I mean, the way to get around it is through these virtual private networks. So there's a long list on Torrent Freak of which providers you should go for. So the recommendation from other publishers is that you should sort of go through those on your own and pick out the good ones. For example, like if you go through a VPN, if your endpoint is a certain country, there might be some sort of deal with Australia for that country to give the information back anyway.
Yeah.
So you just have to sort of go through it all, and I think it's worth researching. So spend 30 minutes of your time this weekend, and I think I'll be doing that as well. I just didn't have that much time over the weekend, so I didn't get to do it, but I'll be doing that this weekend.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
Imagine Joe! He looked at me! He looked right at me! He looked at your broadbrand! He turned his head, he looked me straight in the eye! He was scanning the horizon! No! I am awaited! I am awaited in Valhalla!
Alright, so over the weekend, like we mentioned, we watched, we went to Graphic Festival in Sydney Opera House. One of those big discussion points was around Mad Max, where that clip was from. So we mentioned Walking Dead, but we went to a talk between George Miller, Brendan McCarthy, Nico Lutheris, who are the three sort of writers that have been credited with Mad Max Fury Road. So what were your thoughts, Kelvin, on that?
Well, for one, I think the discussion was so good, it hurt my head so much that at the end of it, I just went home. So
that good, huh?
Yeah, I think the fundamental of the talk was around imagine the world without storytelling. Imagine the world where people just didn't tell stories. And they also spoke about how they tell stories. And these three characters, or these three co-writers, are extremely different personalities.
Yeah.
We have George Miller, obviously, who is known for Mad Max. He's done Happy Feet.
Yep.
He's done a variety of different things. So he's a maestro. He picked up Brendan McCarthy along the way, who is almost like a Mad Max super fan.
Yeah.
And they worked together from 1997 to 1999 for 2 years, where, it was a fan's almost aspect of what Mad Max should be like. So one of the funny things was, George Miller was basically saying, Brendan was there to ensure that I didn't disappoint, Mad Max fans. And then a couple of years later, he picked up Nico, who is like a philosopher.
Yeah.
Almost. Some of the things he said made no sense to me, and I'll give you a couple of examples. He spoke about the psychological constellation. I still don't want to know what that is because I'm worried it might make my head explode.
Yeah.
But basically, he took two different very aspects of storytelling. So Brendan created 3,500 storyboards for George, and George took that to Nico, and Nico took 8 months to sort of build a philosophy or a type of think around it.
He had this thing around the number 22, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he reckoned that out of the storyboards, there were 22 sort of clear scenes or, cuts of the movie. And he sort of took that to another level, sort of taking some of the spiritual and philosophical things, like things from the Quran and I can't remember the example, but there were 22 somethings of something.
So he looked into all these different like mythologies and religions and how the significance of the number 22 is, and that's the kind of guy he is, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I really love the dynamics of the three of them. So even where they were seated, it's like the spectrum of one opinion to the next sort of like philosophy was like, you've got Brendan, who's sort of the mad, crazy guy doing, coming up with some crazy stories. And I'll talk about this later because I went to a separate talk just for Brendan McCarthy as well, to Nico, who's a very sort of philosophical, very spiritual. And you got George right in the middle, who's sort of like the conduit between them, right?
Yeah, he's like
and somehow this movie came out of that.
Yeah, even though it took, they started this in 1997, it
Yeah.
only came out in 2015. It got greenlit 3 times
Yeah.
before, they got dropped. So it was a fascinating session just sitting there watching these 3 awesome cartoonists, writer, drawers, whatever you want to call them, just interact with each other and talk about their process of telling stories.
Yeah, the cool thing about that was, when you go to these things, and you sort of meet the movie makers, and they talk about the last couple of years. This was like a process that went for 20 years, and they were even like catching up on themselves, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, remember when I said this like 15 years ago? And yeah.
So many good lines. Like, the 3 of them were attracted to simple stories. When you think about Mad Max Fury Road, it's just one long car chase. And they really stuck to their guns with that.
Yep, and I like the whole Furiosa story.
Yes.
So the name Furiosa was actually about the land, but it just didn't feel quite right at the time. But it kind of the name kind of stuck around. It wasn't until someone, I can't remember who, but someone said let's call the lady oh god, the actress Charlize is a character. Let's call her Furiosa, and that just kind of felt right, and it stuck ever since.
I did like some of the questions that were posted to the co-writers from Twitter, I think, before that. One of them was, so in the movie, you see a lot of these war boys running around. One question was, were there any war girls? And they're like, no. I think these little details are really interesting. It makes me want to watch Mad Max Fury Road again. Because some of the sketches I saw were things I didn't realize. I mean, a lot of them were quite gruesome, obviously, but I want to go and pinpoint some of the other details that they painstakingly went through.
Yep, and some of the movie was actually shot with a Canon 5D. That was more of a practical thing because I guess in the past, I think one of the Twitter questions were, could you have made this movie 10, 15 years ago? And the answer was no, because the technology wasn't there. So because this was shot in Tunisia, where it doesn't rain, which is the place where it doesn't has the least amount of rain per year, that's why they went there. And they said they could just kind of throw it around. If it breaks, they can go to the airport and get another one.
So surprisingly as well, it's only shot over 138 days. The initial location was Broken Hills here in New South Wales, but it just rained too much, and it didn't give these 3 co-writers the type of environment that you need to do such a crazy show.
Yep. And the other question that I liked was, does George feel like it's a future Australia, or like does it actually represent the country? And his answer was, I think, definitely yes. Around that Broken Hill area where they can't even get in touch with the coastline, so they don't know what's happening due to some apocalyptic event.
And the other interesting thing was there was talk of them doing a black and white version that was silent. They wanted to put that for the Blu-ray, but unfortunately they ran out of budget or time and what that may be. But apparently they did that for Thunderdome, was it?
Yes, or the second one.
The second one, Mad Max 2, and it was killer. Apparently, all they did was play the score in the background, and you watch the movie in black and white with no speech.
It couldn't have been Thunderdome because Tina Turner would have been there
just over and over again for 2 hours.
That's right.
But very fascinating. What else did they, these 3 co-writers have in common? They all grew up in very small communities. So they spoke up about how they used comic books and drawing and writing to really escape their realities. And look at all 3 of them now; they're such great storytellers. It was just fascinating all around.
And what I didn't realize was Nico and George actually went to school together. So all those years ago, I don't know. There might be about 50, 60 by now, but and like I said, I went to a separate Brendan McCarthy talk. You had enough and you had gone by then, but so I'll mention a few things about that. So this guy, not only did he create one of the most amazing movies of the year, he's got a long history of comics and graphic novels. He's gone into movies as well, so I'll just mention some of those. He started out with guys like Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman. They're sort of part of the British wave of comic artists that came through the 80s. They talked about 2000 AD, so I don't know if you're across those.
It's
very
I think it's
underground,
very independent,
sort of comics,
indie type comic books.
So basically, if you're a cool sort of British comic artist, like you had to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what he was doing back in the 80s and 90s. Then he went to Judge Dredd. So he drew a lot of Judge Dredd. He went into, he was traveling. I think this must have been the time where he came to Australia to meet George Miller because he just loved Mad Max. He drew a thing called Freak Wave, which he described it as Mad Max meets surfing. So if you can imagine Max, instead of a car, he's on a surfboard.
Yeah.
Couple other things. He did some Indian kind of freaky sci-fi comics as well, called Rogan Gosh. It's described as a hipster Bollywood. Then he went into music videos, and then he helped out with Michael Jackson videos.
Really?
Yeah. So I think he did the storyboards of those. So this is when he started getting into storyboarding with Hollywood and the like. He did the storyboards for the original Turtles, the movie from the 90s.
Really? I actually like that one.
Yeah. So that was a lot better than the recent one.
Oh,
right?
a lot better.
I don't know, maybe it is dated now, but I loved it as well, especially the soundtrack.
Yeah.
He did the storyboards for Highlander 2.
Ah,
yes.
There can only be one.
That's right. But there were several. But he said that could have been the best sci-fi movie at the time, but I think a few things happened. And,
it
he was very upfront about those sort of things, all those issues with the studio and stuff, because he's just the storyboard guy, right?
Yeah.
What can he do? What else? He did Thunderbirds, the live-action Thunderbirds.
Oh, that was pretty bad.
And I'll just sort of skip ahead. He then got to do some like really famous sort of Marvel comics like Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah,
so that really psychedelic nature to it. He did a lot of that, and also something called Cross Clouds for DC. Are you across that?
No, I'm not across Cross
so I think
Clouds.
Batman was in there. Apparently, he drew the cover of the craziest Batman cover of all time, and it's basically Batman versus the Hands. So these are like, the villains were hands.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. So he's really into these very out there type concepts and stories. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, very interesting guy. Just he had a slideshow, and I think it would have been good if he stayed. But I really loved it.
But I think it gave me a real appreciation for storytelling and storyboards and how to tell a story, keeping it simple. It's just so much respect for these guys right now, because even he was saying some movies, 3,500 storyboards sound like a lot, but he's done up to 5,000. So it just gives, we produce content on a podcast, and we do a bit of work, in terms of getting the research and getting the stories and putting it on YouTube. But just watching these guys who spend years doing this was a fascinating insight.
At LexCorp Industries, we believe in technology that unites us, where inspiration, innovation, and imagination all come together to create a greater tomorrow today.
So Kelvin, the other thing that happened over the weekend was New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
We didn't go to that one this time, but we're too busy at the Graphic Festival. There are a couple of news items coming out of there. Did you catch any of that?
No, I didn't really get a chance this week because it's been crazy busy. I did see the winner of the best cosplay, and someone came in a 9.5 foot Hulkbuster outfit. So a lot must have happened.
That's right. It's mostly a TV event, I think, New York Comic Con, because San Diego one, I guess that's the major one, and I guess it's run by the same company, right? Mm-hmm. They concentrate more on TV shows. So they actually showed the very first episode of the X-Files.
Really?
At New York Comic Con. So those of you who are lucky enough to be there, very jealous of you guys. They also had that sound clip that we just played with LexCorp's free Wi-Fi that was available, which is a viral campaign, similar to what happened with the Dark Knight and the Joker.
Yeah, so watch the video in our show notes, but there is talk about this thing called Lex OS.
Yeah.
So it sounds very similar to the Terminator Genesis storyline, where Genesis was an operating system that was going to use to infect phones and devices. be interesting to see how this plays with the plot for Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, and the other sort of thing going around about Lex Luthor is that he's the reason why he looks so young is actually it's because he's the son of another Luthor that started this company, LexCorp.
Got you.
I guess we'll find out in January when we watch it. But actually, that's not too far away now.
No, that's not too far at all.
But yeah, viral campaign. I remember Prometheus had that TED talk in the future. I remember as well. So these are the sort of things that movie companies are doing these days. So what else from Comic-Con? We had Jessica Jones panels as well as Daredevil.
Yeah.
So got to see a bit of a sneak peek.
So I think all I took out from that 31-second clip was Bullseye. It's going to be in season 2 because
they showed Bullseye.
They showed bullets.
Okay.
And then they showed this guy walking off at the end. It's got to be Bullseye.
I thought that was the Punisher.
Oh, it could be the Punisher as well. But I think the Punisher versus Bullseye would be amazing.
All right.
So that's my prediction.
Yeah, and we got a little glimpse of the other girl.
Elektra?
Elektra. But a good version of Elektra.
Yeah, a good version of Elektra. In other entertainment news, there was a HollywoodReporter.com which just had a really good feature on how the Steve Jobs movie was made. So if you're really into that, have a read. I'm not going to go into it too much. It is a very long article.
It is, yeah.
But if you're into sort of, how movies are made and how difficult it can be, they interviewed all the stars. Have a look.
Yeah, we'll probably review it at some point, I would say.
When it comes out.
The cool thing, well, I don't know if it's a cool thing you can say, but the length and breadth of this inside of the movie is all through the Sony hack, apparently. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
And Marvel news, there's going to be another Ant-Man the sequel, and it's going to be called Ant-Man and the Wasp. Very descriptive.
Yeah, we saw that coming.
What does that mean? It means that some of the other Marvel movies have been reshuffled. So there's a lot of, heated debate about that because Captain Marvel has been bumped by a few months.
I think Ant-Man was probably, it was an experiment. They wanted to see if it would work, and it probably did, and it's well deserved.
Yeah. So we had an episode where we just talked about the Marvel schedule. There is a page where the schedule is updated in real time. So I'll probably share that. But they've also announced that there's going to be 2 new films that are currently untitled at the end of Phase 3. So yeah, this could be the new Phase 4 movies.
Yeah, I think they're just leaving slots now because they want to see what works.
Yeah, and that's not until 2020. So there you go.
Yeah. So that's been a long show of interviews that we found interesting, a bit more entertainment news, a quick run through of the tech news, and we hope you enjoyed it. But if you have any feedback, don't forget to write to us on Twitter at TheLazyCouch or email at thelazycouchpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on the usual social networks, including Facebook and Instagram. Search for The Lazy Couch. And we're also on YouTube, so don't forget to like and subscribe there. But more importantly, find us on iTunes, spread the word, and rate us there. Yeah, Geoff, you held that well?
Yes, that wasn't too bad. Yeah. Hopefully my voice came through okay.
Yeah.
Might have to edit some of the coughing out, but Geoff out.
Kelv out.
Hello and a very croaky welcome to The Lazy Couch, episode 30. I'm going to start again. Should I just stick to the script?
No, just stick it, okay? You may put it down for you. Okay, go on. Wait. Don't move. Welcome to...
I'm not even reading it now.
Very croaky...
No, it's a croaky welcome.
Croaky? Yeah, that's croaky, right?
Not welcome to a very croaky. It's a croaky welcome.
Oh, you want croaky welcome. Hey, I can work with that. And... hello and a...
Very croaky? I can't say that. Croaky. Hello and a very croaky.
No, I should just spell it wrong just to fuck with you. Alright.